Fantastic. I want to talk about maximizing the case value and the reason we do this. You've got the big data users like your Rex and Kill Paris. You've got or sorry, the data users like Sean Claggett, and then you have Rex and Kale who don't use big data, right? It's more psychology and NLP and to try to determine what they're going to come in for an offer, and then you've got now the focus groups. So like we're all trying to do the same thing. We're trying to maximize the case value. So tell me about how they can make an impact and where it comes into play on that side of the coin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said from the very beginning, I'm working with solo, small firm, maybe sometimes mid firm. And you get that big case, like you really need to maximize it. You need to be making really good decisions about what you're asking for, how you're framing the case early on, because, you know, you get in there and you just think, oh, it's an 18 wheeler, or and you just think, oh, they're just going to hand you over a check. And it's like, yeah, they will, but it won't be what you what you really need to be working that case up. And so the way that I like to frame doing these focus groups is because they are as short as an hour. You can get in there, Chris, before you even file and do 1 hour to find out what is on people's blackboard and take that into the deposition and start to grow it into something. Because what you want to be able to do is really plan to grow that case in every single possible way and show it as you go. Because if you try to wait until trial, because people are like, well, I'm going to wait, right? I'm going to only do that mock jury, that large data, like right at the very end. Like, there are so many places you've missed to maximize case value in the liability facts, in the damages, and doing some of these just real short 1 hour. It's a small investment with a huge amount of value. You can really start to work that into your case early and show the defense, show the decision makers back there that you're serious and you're doing your homework, because you're giving the jury what they already want. And it's going to be obvious. Like, it's not this super secret voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people are honest and they're upfront, and they're going to tell you really quickly in those focus groups what they like and what they don't like.
Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot here, and we'll have a fun time with
Okay.
this.
Okay.
The sometimes the case looks good on paper, and then it turns out it's like looking like it's going to be a money pit. So where do you see what's this top of mind, something that comes to mind that you've seen from like these focus groups really help and avoid those red flags?
Absolutely. Two really good examples. And one of them is what I would call super sexy. And that is a crime inside a prison, a brutal, caught on tape. I mean, horrible situation. And you know what? That was going to be, you're going to have experts. We're going to have to get our video cleaned up, like lots of depositions here because so many people were involved. And so they came to me and they said, okay, do they care? Because we know this is going to be a super expensive case. This is something that this particular defendant will take all the way. Like, is this something we want to invest in? And so we did a 1 hour, and it was like, okay, kind of mixed results, but they were able to make a better decision about, okay, do we move forward, and a little bit more about what they care about and what they don't care about. Another good example I have is where someone is injured on a construction site. Now you've got subcontractors, general contractor, landowner, bill, all these people. And what they wanted to know was, are they going to pin down the right person? Pin down the person with, the deep pockets. And they had somebody who was seriously injured, like paralyzed for the rest of their life, huge life care plan. They knew that they were going to be a bunch of experts, and they just said, we want to know how they're going to respond and who they're going to put down as responsible. And ultimately, after that focus group, they said, you know what? We're just not going to pursue it. There's just not going to be really a viable way without dumping a large amount of money in it
Hmm.
to possibly maybe get a little bit of recovery.
Interesting. So I guess in those scenarios, it's like, hey, let's refer to a legit, well-established litigating firm, and then you're getting the referral, but you also don't have all those costs up front, so maybe those come into play later. So let's talk about that smaller smaller firm. I think you've even used the phrase, trial ready on a budget. Um, these solo to mid-sized, from your experience, what does it look like for a smaller firm to be trial ready without breaking the bank?
I think it's really knowing strategically when to check in, because you want to be able to find the blind spots in a case before you take the big depots, right? Before you go in and you try to take out an expert. I mean, there's a lot of different thoughts on that, but a lot of people really, because you really need to be making a decision about trial well beforehand, because you got to save up your dollars. You're not going to be working on anything else. And so, what I see people who are smaller firms, but they want to be trial ready, right? They want to do it all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, okay, like it's 6 months out, let's just do 1 hour. Okay, now we're 3 months out, let's do a 2 hour. Okay, now we're getting a little closer. We're getting a better settlement offer. Let's do it one more time. Let's do a 3 hour. So they're kind of layering it in. And again, thinking through, there's a lot of flexibility in these Zoom focus groups. We're not doing the entire case every single time we step into a Zoom focus group. We're probably looking at something in a vacuum. Maybe it's just liability. Maybe it's just deposition clips to see what people think about that testimony. And what really happens is most of the time you're pretty humbled that you thought you took a great deposition and they're thinking it's like, you know, it's all right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the stuff that most trial ready people need to know, because again, smaller to small mid-sized firm, you're about to invest 30, 40, 50 grand in a trial. Maybe you don't make that decision and you do pivot to settlement because you're getting mixed reviews. I mean, that's recently what I had where I was helping an employment law firm solo, and he's getting ready. He's going to have two trials back to back. They're pretty much the same kind of style. And he was like, you know what? It's too mixed. Like we're just getting, they're doing these smaller 2 hour, 3 hour focus groups and they're just getting a mixed result. And so they just said, we can't roll the dice. That would break the bank. And then what would we do? And so that's really where I feel like people, solo to small firm, even mid-sized firm, can start to check in a little earlier so that you can make decisions, like I said, along the way. Even if you're kind of making the decision, we're not getting the offer. Like, because that's a lot of times what happens. Maybe you don't have the trial experience or you're a new firm and they're looking at you like, we'll roll the dice. Like, you really want to then be planning that trial earlier out and getting that opening statement, getting those things ready. And then also what a lot of times happens is you kind of sometimes have to convince your client, and doing
Mm-hmm.
these focus groups, investing in your client significantly helps them along the way as well. And that's what I tell people, like, this is a big differentiation you can make in your law firm when you're telling a client who maybe they're shopping around, or maybe they've got, the friend referral, and that you're a better fit. Like, how can you tell them you're going to invest in them and you believe in the case? And, how can you do that? And that's, again, where sometimes these solo small firms are going to be able to stand out because they are trial ready, but they're also investing in the case early on.